gonna try to project really well, just because if I have to mess with the microphone, it'll be harder. So I don't know if there's an award for this. If there is, I think I might qualify for the person who took the longest from her first Toastmasters meeting to her icebreaker speech. It's kind of ironic because I actually am described by most people as very driven and goal-oriented, but I became a victim of my own ambition, and as a result, I've pivoted much farther towards caution and taking on new commitments than I ever thought I would. I think last year during table topics I mentioned that I got my very first introduction to the sweet satisfaction of checking off goals the year that I turned 14. I had made a very extensive list of New Year's resolutions and very proactively reorganized my entire life so that I could achieve most of them. And it felt so good that for the next few years I very naively started building my own identity on my achievements. I realized very quickly that for me to maximize my achievements, I had to minimize ambiguity. And as I reflected at a very young age on my career and the classes that I liked, I realized that I found certainty and predictability in numbers. And more specifically, I realized that accounting gave me checks and balances that would let me know if I made a mistake. So that gave me some certainty in ensuring the quality of my work, because I could catch my own mistakes before anyone else ever found them. And before I was even done with high school, I had it all planned out. I was going to go to college, work as much as I needed to help pay for tuition so that I could graduate debt-free. After college, I would become a CPA and work for one of the big four. In college, I would also meet my future husband. We would get married at 25, and at 27, I would pop out twins, a boy and a girl. I didn't really plan past 27, and it's probably a good thing because none of that went exactly as I had intended, and most of it not quite as I had planned. I realized my last year in college that I hated accounting, but it was too late at that point, and from that point on, I decided that I needed to become a little bit closer with ambiguity instead of trying to avoid it. So I became a very close, though a lot of times a very unwelcome companion. I managed to segue into finance from accounting and spent the next few years mulling over different options for a master's degree. This time I was committed to finding something that I would feel passionate about. I also grew very wary of corporate culture and a little bit resentful about the fact that I was slaving away, getting only a 2% raise while some CEO was flying around the world in his private jet. And I thought, if I'm going to be working these hours, at least I should be working for a nonprofit, because that way I would indirectly benefit society. Little did I know that that transition was the first of a series of seeds in my life that would start to grow a heart for compassion and justice for the poor and the oppressed within me. As I learned more about the humanitarian sector, it started changing my perspectives. And I was fortunate enough to land a finance role within a large international development organization. My exposure to the organization and all the work that they did not only amplified my exposure to issues in the humanitarian sector, but also helped me to discover the deep sense of meaning and purpose that I got from seeing the benefits in communities where we worked. In 2012, I finally decided to pursue a master's degree in community economic development. My intention was, and still is, to get a closer connection to the work that I do and the benefits that I see as a result in the communities. I was able to transition into a non-finance role, a more strategic role within the organization, and finally graduated in 2014. The interesting thing is that I wouldn't have guessed that doing a master's degree would actually invite even more ambiguity into my life. I thought it would create a very narrow set of career objectives that I could then pick from, and that would give me the purpose and the focus that I needed. But in fact, it opened up a whole new world of opportunities that I had never considered, all within my area of interest. I'm slowly learning to embrace ambiguity, though, because I find that it brings many more opportunities than I would have ever imagined before. I've always been committed to self-improvement and personal growth, and within the last 3 years, I've actually been challenged in ways that I really didn't anticipate, even with my commitment. I was pushed at times, or forced at times to take a step back, yet at the same time I've had to push forward against my own comfort zone and my own internal barriers. In some ways I found that it made me stronger, but at the same time it also started revealing some areas for personal growth, some of them connected to areas that I previously thought were strengths actually. And that's why I'm here. When I first started getting an interest in Toastmasters, some of that had to do with a friend of mine and colleague who was actually in Toastmasters and had some benefits to her own career. And maybe one day I'll realize those benefits as well, but for me it's more about the personal growth than anything else. As I look around this room, a lot of the people here seem to be very dedicated towards personal growth, and that's what I really like about this club. So as I continue along my journey to become a competent communicator, and I am committed to doing that, I look forward to sharing more of my journey with you and continuing to grow together.